A huge championship match has been added to Money in the Bank, and are we one step closer to the Elite versus CMFTR? But first we have a health update following the insane match between Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay. On Sunday night at Forbidden Door, Toronto would be the home to one of the best wrestling matches of the year when Ospreay and Omega battled for the IWGP United States Championship, although there were some concerns over potential short and long-term injuries given the extent the two men were willing to go to and the brutality of the match as a whole. Well, according to a fresh report from Fightful Select, Omega and Ospreay would emerge relatively unscathed, with Kenny specifically telling people that he was fine after the bell. The report adds that as the two entered the backstage area, they were met with an applause and standing ovation, receiving heavy praise from their peers. Fightful would note that the match was meticulously planned out ahead of time, this in order to differentiate it from their first match at Wrestle Kingdom in January, which saw Omega get in most of the offense. And speaking of Will Ospreay, he looks set to walk away from multiple promotions. Whilst Ospreay is signed to a new Japan Pro-Wrestling contract, the Kingpin is an active part of the United Kingdom independence, with him taking it upon himself to get the scene back to where it was prior to the pandemic. On top of this, he's also worked across the UK and Europe for various promotions over the past few years. With that said, he would speak on the post-Forbidden Door media scrum, where he would reveal that he will soon become more selective with the dates that he works due to the punishment his body is taking, and he would say, "My whole thing with performing, not just in Japan, in England, United States, France, Canada, Italy, Spain, Germany, and anywhere, the term best in the world is thrown around almost religiously in any type of promotion. I don't allocate myself to one place. I think to truly be the best in the world, you test yourself in every company's position, you go anywhere and everywhere. That's how you find and discover new talent. I always have a saying of pay it forward. I'm very passionate about the British wrestling scene. They got hit real hard from the pandemic, and I took it upon myself to try and get it back how it was. I still don't think the job is done in England yet, but I do feel like my time is coming up, especially doing all the independents. My body is starting to break down, and I feel like it's time for me to be a little more sensible, and probably will wrap up doing the independents this year." The biggest UK show in some time is set to take place in late August when AEW hold the All In event from Wembley Stadium, with Will revealing in the press conference that he's open to working the show, with it now being up for the two sides to work something out, and possibly a third match with Kenny Omega. Elsewhere on the Forbidden Door scrum, Sting and Darby Allin would speak to the media following their six-man tag win alongside Tetsuya Naito, with them defeating Chris Jericho, Sammy Guevara, and Minoru Suzuki in the second last match of the night. They would then be interrupted by Chris Jericho, who would hit a water bottle with his baseball bat into the journalists in attendance, before challenging Sting and Darby to a tag team match for this Wednesday night on AEW Dynamite. Prior to this surprise appearance, however, Sting would discuss his future in wrestling after suggesting that this year could be his last inside a squared circle, and the icon would reveal that he still doesn't have a date in mind, and he would say, "I have not decided on a date for sure. A lot of people have actually wondered if I'm going to retire at Wembley. That would be kind of cool, but I don't see that happening. I think I'm going to continue on. Tony has been in my ear here and there saying, 'Steve, you can stay as long as you want.' I'm not sure how long that will be, but like I said a few months ago, Showtime is just about over with, and it truly is, but I'm looking forward to going back to London. Last time I was there, I was Joker Sting, and the crowd loved it there, and it was not the big stadium, but still a great crowd. I'm looking forward to heading back over there." Sting's AEW contract is set to expire in late 2023, and he reportedly has interest from the same Israeli company that is eyeing up a retirement tour for Goldberg, so only time will tell if he will hang up his boots inside or outside of an AEW ring. And now let's get to some WWE related news, as a top NXT champion has made their Monday Night Raw debut. Last night on Raw, NXT champion Carmelo Hayes would come to the aid of current WWE World Heavyweight Champion Seth Rollins, who was on the end of a beatdown from Finn Balor. The save follows a recent appearance from both Rollins and Balor this past Tuesday on NXT. Unfortunately for the Raw debutant, he would fall short in his first ever Red Brand match when Finn Balor defeated him in singles action, kicking kicking off his main roster appearances with a loss. Hayes is now set to defend his NXT Championship against main roster free agent Baron Corbin tonight, with the match expected to headline the Gold Rush special edition of NXT. And next, a title match has been added to Money in the Bank. This weekend, WWE will host the Money in the Bank event from London, England, where Gunther will return to European soil to put his Intercontinental Championship on the line. After weeks of going back and forth with Imperium, Matt Riddle would appear in a digital exclusive video after last night's episode of Raw, with him revealing that he will challenge Gunther for his title this Saturday night. Riddle himself is a former WWE United States champion, although if he were to come out on top in London, he will begin his first reign with the IC belt. With that said, a victory is unlikely, with Gunther well on his way to being the one to top Honky Tonk Man's record 454-day reign, with him having just 42 days to go until he becomes the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion in history. And next up, we have an update on the backstage divide between the Elite and CM Punk. This past Sunday night, Forbidden Door would mark the first time CM Punk, Kenny Omega, and the Young Bucks have been in the same building for the same show since the infamous Brawl Out incident last September at the All Out pay-per-view. According to a recent report from Fightful Select, it appears that measures were in place to prevent the two parties from crossing paths in order to keep everyone happy. It was noted that the Elite and CM Punk were based on completely different sides of the Scotiabank Arena before and during the show. Whilst the two camps are being kept apart for now, we also have an interesting development coming from Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio following the show, as it appears that there may be a chance that something will be worked out in the weeks and months ahead. Dave would say that whilst fences need to be mended between the Elite and CM Punk specifically, any potential heat between the Elite and CM Punk's friends FTR is now in the past, and he would say, FTR and Omega, the Young Bucks, they're all fine. Some people think it's like this divide with Punk and FTR against these guys. With Punk, there's still fence mending that needs to be done for them to work together and everything like that. It could happen, it may not happen, time will tell. But with FTR, it's fine. There's nothing at all that would hold back if they wanted to do a tag title program at some point tomorrow. Everyone's cool with that. FTR worked really hard on that too. They went out of their way to get that done. This is music to the ears of those that hope this backstage drama comes to an end sooner rather than later, and could also take us one step closer to an eventual on-screen rivalry between the two parties, something that fans have fantasy booked ever since the events of All Out. Interestingly, the comments follow recent claims from Meltzer that the AEW locker room is more divided than it's ever been, with one talent who left the show in a bad mood describing the situation as a ticking time bomb. It's certainly a confusing one given the close proximity of the two reports. However, the latter appears to back up multiple claims from talent and outlets that have revealed the backstage atmosphere is nowhere near as bad as it's been made out to be, something we've covered tirelessly over the past week or so in opposition to the divisive reports that have been debunked on multiple occasions. But let me know what you think of Meltzer's newest claims in the comments down below. And before you go, make sure you check out the truth behind CM Punk's secret wrestling returns before AEW.